Today's episode is brought to you by Positively Productive Systems, whose mission is to be the antidote to your stress and to provide compassionate productivity resources and coaching that help you heal and achieve. Be sure to check out both free and paid resources at positivelyproductive.com/resources.
People are quick to say, oh, you just need more work-life balance, or I need more work-life balance, but nobody actually teaches you how to create that balance, right? And so we keep doing the same things that we've done, expecting a different result, right? Which never works. But ultimately, I actually think work-life anything is innately flawed because work is only one of the 10 pillars of wholeness that make up all of our lives. So if you're solely trying to bring balance to work, while ignoring all the rest of the parts and pieces of who you are, you're never going to win. So the concept of balance to me is taking that step back to look at the bigger picture and see what has too much attention, what doesn't have enough attention, and how can we recalibrate that to create greater balance in our lives so that we can feel good. So I believe that it's not work-life balance that we should be striving for. It's just life balance. How do we bring balance to all of the different parts of our lives so that we can reclaim our wholeness and feel good?
You're listening to the Positively Living Podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Zawrotny, founder of Positively Productive Systems and a productivity coach certified in positive psychology and stress management. Join me as we explore ways to live a more proactive, positive life with episodes on productivity, self-awareness, mindset, entrepreneur life, habits and systems, simplicity, fun, and more. I understand overwhelm personally as a multi-passionate entrepreneur, wife and mom to kids and cats, and as a caregiver. I'm here to help you choose what's right for you so you can do less, live more, and breathe easier. Sound good? Let's get to it. Welcome to the Positively Living Podcast. I'm your host, Lisa, and today's topic is something I think we all strive for, but aren't always sure how to get. Life balance. I'm delighted to feature a return guest today to help us identify what it is, why we want it, and how to get it. Nicole Mixdorf is a #1 international best-selling author, keynote speaker, energy healer, and the founder and chief wholeness officer of Balance by Nature. She's a multi-award-winning corporate wellness consultant and conscious business leader in Los Angeles and is passionate about teaching executives and busy professionals how to create sustainable balance to thrive in all of their 10 pillars of wholeness. In our conversation today, Nicole shares the true nature of a balanced life and how it is wholeness we seek, not just wellness. She covers the 10 pillars of wholeness that we need to assess to ensure balance in our lives and gives us a simple set of steps to address the imbalances we will undoubtedly find. She also shares some of the more common imbalances and areas of neglect, and I don't think you'll be surprised that those include an abundance of stress and lack of self-care. If that resonates with you, I recommend checking out episodes about these topics. You can find them in the self-care playlist and stress management playlists. Both are buttons on the podcast page of the website, positivelyproductive.com/podcast. Go there, scroll down just a bit, and you'll see the different playlists. You can click right on them and have an entire collection of episodes all about that very topic. I am excited to hear what you think about Nicole's perspective on balance and wholeness. And I encourage you to assess your own 10 pillars, and please let me know the results. If you'd like, I'd be happy to message you with a curated list of episodes and resources that I offer to help you. And if you could use more personalized support, it might be time to consider a coaching session. I welcome you to start with a free discovery call where we'll assess where you are, where you want to go, and how I can help you get there. You can book a call with me by going to positivelyproductive.com/call, and it will take you right to the calendar. If you'd like to reach me in other ways, you can start at the Connect page of the website, positivelyproductive.com/connect, and there is a link from that page as well to book a discovery call. Now, let's join Nicole and talk about our 10 pillars of wholeness. Welcome to the Positively Living podcast. Welcome back, actually, I should say. Nicole, it's so good to have you here. It's been years since we had you on the podcast, and so much has happened in between. But you and I are still on the same path to helping people live better lives. And I'm so excited to continue that conversation with you today.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me back. It is just always a delight to connect with you. So excited to be here with you.
So we're going to talk about balance, life balance. But before we do, please share a bit with us about who you are, who you help. And my favorite part of this question is, what makes you light up?
For anybody who doesn't know me, my name is Nicole Mixdorf, and I am the founder and Chief Wholeness Officer at Balance by Nature, which is an award-winning corporate wellness and culture consulting company. I get the beautiful privilege every day of helping people feel good and live a better life. So I love that we're so aligned in that way. I got started in this because I found myself in the corporate world getting really sick from stress. And when I finally took a step back and removed a large source of stress from my life and started focusing more on my self-care, my symptoms cleared up. And it was this huge awakening moment for me because I realized, wow, you could have the healthy lifestyle of nutrition and fitness, but if you have chronic stress, none of the rest even matters. And, all my colleagues were suffering, all my corporate clients were suffering, everybody was suffering from stress because it affects you in different ways. And I just thought, wow, there's got to be a better way. So that's kind of what started me down this path to help busy professionals in their workplaces to learn how to create greater balance in their lives so they can keep doing what they want to do, but in a way that is going to allow them to thrive rather than getting burnt out and sick, which is ultimately what happened to me. Right now, I get to do two things. I get to help these corporations, these mid-sized organizations that want to have a better culture. They want to focus on supporting the well-being of their staff, and I get to do that, which is very meaningful. And then on the other hand, I have this new beautiful journey starting where I am an energy healer and I get to work with people one-on-one and do life balance coaching and also energy healing. And that is lighting me up so much right now in a way that the other part of my work, I love it too, but being able to help facilitate healing for people in the ways that I have, it's unbelievable. But that's what I came into this life to do is to help people heal. So I'm loving it.
And I am loving this journey for you because we need this so much. And again, I feel like we are kindred spirits in this. And when you last joined us, it feels like forever ago. And I often joke that it's not the years, it's the mileage. We were talking about change and trying to manage through that. And it's a reminder to us, right? The only constant is change. There's always going to be something coming at us. In the green room earlier, we were talking about the fact that there's always going to be stress. You can't eradicate that. It's about what do you do with it? How do you flow around it? And how do you reinforce yourself in order to do that? And I think that that's kind of the essence of balance. But let's start with that idea. We want to balance our lives, and you have these wholeness pillars that we're going to be looking at. But let's first talk about this idea of having life balance. And although it may seem like a very basic question, what is it and why do we want it, Nicole?
There are a lot of people that don't really even think balance is realistic. They don't think balance is possible. And in my world, working in the corporate space, there's a lot of talk about work-life balance. And people are quick to say, oh, you just need more work-life balance, or I need more work-life balance. But nobody actually teaches you how to create that balance, right? And so we keep doing the same things that we've done, expecting a different result, right? Which never works. And so it's interesting because some people say, oh, work-life balance. No, we shouldn't even be talking about that. We should talk about work-life integration. How do we integrate our work into our life? And it's like, okay, that's an interesting concept. Then there's this other camp of people over here. They're like, no, we should be talking about work-life harmony. How do we actually create harmony in our work and our life? And I feel like that's getting a little bit closer, but ultimately, I actually think work life anything is innately flawed because work is only one of the 10 pillars of wholeness that make up all of our lives. So if you're solely trying to bring balance to work while ignoring all the rest of the parts and pieces of who you are, you're never going to win. So the concept of balance to me is taking that step back to look at the bigger picture and see what has too much attention, what doesn't have enough attention, and how can we recalibrate that to create greater balance in our lives so that we can feel good. So I believe that it's not work-life balance that we should be striving for. It's just life balance. How do we bring balance to all of the different parts of our lives so that we can reclaim our wholeness and feel good?
So, in reclaiming wholeness, that sounds beautiful. It sounds good. Like you could tell me that and I'm convinced, but tell me what that wholeness brings to us. Go ahead and throw out those benefits for why we want that wholeness.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you, we have these 10 pillars, and I'll go over them with you in a moment. But when any one of them is being neglected, like it's not getting enough attention in your life, or on the flip side, has way too much negative attention associated with it, too much stress, that's what pulls life out of its balance, and we don't feel whole as a result. So it could be like what I was dealing with in my life, which was a health issue, which was my physical wholeness pillar. And I was sick, and that's why I didn't feel whole at that time in my life. I felt like a shell of myself in that moment. But maybe with someone else, it's a relationship that's falling apart, and it's their social wholeness pillar that has the relationships. And that's making them feel like a shell of themselves, like they don't feel whole going through life. It could be that you're dealing with a financial crisis and it's your financial wholeness pillar that is being impacted right now that's completely out of whack. And that's why you don't feel whole. Or maybe it's just work is way too stressful and it's too demanding. And that's why you don't feel whole. So there's all these different reasons why we don't feel like our whole selves. And it's like when you're challenged and you don't feel whole, you just don't feel like you can be everything that you can be. All of this also shows up to work with us. So it doesn't matter what issues you've got going on in your life, it comes with you when you sit down to work. So if you're not feeling whole, you're going to be distracted. You're going to probably be a little irritable. You're not going to be communicating with people as well as you could be otherwise. You may not be offering the highest level of service that you can. You're certainly not going to be as creative or as innovative as you otherwise would be, right? So there's all these parts of us. Our unique brilliance gets dimmed when we don't feel whole. So the concept of being able to reclaim your wholeness and feeling complete within yourself allows you to show up in the world as your best self, to really not only experience things and get the enjoyment and the richness out of life and out of every moment, but it's also what you're able to give in a much bigger, more beautiful way.
What you're describing is what we hear in the phrase, and sometimes it can feel like this phrase that we're just passing off, but what does it mean? But I feel like you just described this idea of living your best life, right? And this is what we're striving for. So if we're going to pull out the thesaurus here and play a little bit, the wholeness, like I was immediately thinking, when you don't feel complete, when there's something missing, or like you said, you feel kind of like a shell where it's like there's a shallowness, or in this case, if we're talking about balance, maybe it's the idea of imbalance. Sometimes it's easier to tell what's off rather than the fact that you're striving for balance, but you're like, I can definitely feel like something's off here, or something just feels off in general. Let's explore where it is. And that's part of what we're talking about today. And so that not being whole or those issues, what you made me think of was you're not reaching your full potential. You're not at your best. I think it's a breeding ground for even more stress response.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. So it's like a negative kind of domino effect. And then I was thinking when you described how you're trying to be at your best, if you are out of balance, then Also, that authenticity, your zone of genius, you can't get to that.
Right.
It's being blocked in a way.
That's exactly it.
This is not what we want. So what do we do? Let's
Yes.
talk about these wholeness pillars. And you know what's really funny is when we were first saying, okay, let's talk about living our best lives again and come back to this conversation. And you suggested, that you have these 10 wholeness pillars. The first time I read that, I thought it said wellness pillars.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's an important distinction, maybe, that you're saying wholeness and not necessarily wellness. And you may be able to speak to that when you share them. So I give you the floor. Let's talk about these different pillars. And I think by looking at them, it will help us to see where the balance is or isn't.
Definitely. And I want to address that point that you brought up, the difference between wellness and wholeness. When I started out my company 12 years ago, everything was about wellness, things you do to be well. So this was a lot of physical activity, fitness, nutrition, things that you're doing for your physical body. And that was the main focus of wellness. And then I would say maybe 6 or 7 years ago, at least in the corporate space, there was this transition, this shift to talk about, instead of corporate wellness, now we're talking more about corporate well-being. And it was all about well-being and focusing more on the well-being. And that started bringing in more of the elements of the mental health piece and bringing in meditations and different practices that are going to look at the overall well-being. And there was like a financial well-being that started coming in. And I thought, okay, this is great. We're moving in the right direction. But what I really feel right now is that there's this huge opportunity to shift from wellness and well-being into wholeness, because there are just more parts and pieces of who we are that make us whole that we're missing from the other two models. And that's really this beautiful shift into wholeness and creating in a corporate space these cultures of wholeness as well. When we talk about these different pillars of wholeness, these are the parts that make you who you are. So you have your mental wholeness, which is your mental state, your stress levels, your resilience, but it's also your mindset and your mindfulness. Then you have your emotional wholeness, which is then your emotional state. And how do you process emotions? How well are you able to let things go and forgive? How do you heal from trauma that you've been through that we're all largely carrying with us right now? From there, we go into our spiritual wholeness. And your spiritual wholeness is that connection within. It's tapping into your own purpose and uncovering what the vision is that you want to create for your life, and leaning more into your own faith, whatever that is, and learning to trust your own inner guidance and wisdom, that intuition that exists within you. So really, really beautiful piece of that. Then we have our physical wholeness, and that's your physical health. It's all of the things you do to stay healthy. So it's your fitness, it's your nutrition, and it's your sleep largely, and then from there, we wind up moving on to our personal wholeness. Our personal wholeness is all the things we do for ourselves. It's like your personal development, it's your self-care, it's music and hobbies and travel and education, all the things that light you up inside, the things that bring greatest joy. That's your personal wholeness right there. And then from there, we move into our professional wholeness, the things that we're doing professionally. So it's looking at your career trajectory. Where are you at now? And then where do you want to be? And are there any skills that you need to learn? It's about conscious leadership and intentional time management and goal setting. From there, we have our financial wholeness, which definitely is financial planning and estate planning and traditional things like that, budgeting, etc. But we take a deeper dive into that to really understand about what is the relationship you have with money. What is the energetics behind money? What are your old money stories that you've been carrying around that have been holding you back from achieving that next level of success and greatness within your own life? So that's that part of it. And then from there, we have our environmental wholeness. And that is all the spaces that we occupy. So it's your home, it's your office, your neighborhood, community, the planet, being of service. All of that falls into that pillar. And then we have our energetic wholeness. And our energetic wholeness is all of our energy level that we have throughout the day. And it's the energy we put out into the world. It's the energy we allow into our lives. And it's also like our motivation and our drive, the things that keep us going and moving forward. And then we have our social wholeness, which are all of our relationships. So it's parenting, it's romance, it's your team, it's your tribe, it's communication. So these are all of the different parts and pieces that make us whole. These are the parts of our lives. And it's really finding balance within there. I've got a very specific kind of roadmap to help people uncover what's happening within all these different pillars for yourself, and then what's the right approach to take to bring it back into alignment.
One of the things that jumped out at me in this description, and you had kind of mentioned it earlier in describing that it's not only this idea of balance in that maybe there's like a neglect or an avoidance of an area,
Yeah,
but also that there can be maybe even more focus, like an abundance of focus, but a negative focus. And I thought that's just
exactly.
so interesting that those two things, it's not just the lack of, but sometimes like, the abundant, or excessive focus of, but in a negative way that can also cause a problem. And I was thinking about that in so many ways, the energy, like you said, where our energy drains and where it grows and how these connect together. Because when you talk about relationships and then you're like, immediately I'm thinking of my introvert friends, I watch out for
Yes.
them. I'm the extrovert that adopts them. And, but I'm very sensitive, right, to our energy drains and our energy fluctuations and things like that. So they all impact each other. How do you assess this when you're first starting out? Like, what are the first steps that we can take, Nicole?
Yeah, so the first step really is to take a step back in your own life and look at all these different areas of your life and uncover for yourself which are the areas of my life that are completely out of alignment. That's the easiest for you to recognize because you understand, if you're in a financial crisis, clearly your financial wholeness is totally out of alignment right now. So, which are the ones that are completely out of alignment for you? And it's going to be different for all of us, right? And then I want you to think of, well, which pillars is that impacting? Because it is a domino effect. In that same example, if you're having a financial crisis right now, well, maybe that's going to start you having friction with your partner. And that's going to start affecting your social wholeness pillar right there. And now that friction is causing you to get really stressed. And so now that's impacting your mental wholeness. And now you're feeling emotionally drained. And so now that's impacting your emotional wholeness. And now my energy is low. And so now my energetic wholeness is being impacted. So it kind of has a domino effect on each other, right? But it's an important distinction to look at which are the ones that are completely out of alignment for you. Then, which other pillars are those ones affecting, impacting? So those are two different categories. And then the third category is which ones are being neglected. What are you not giving enough time to, enough attention to? What's missing from your life? So there's these three categories to really think about. It's the neglected pillars, the impacted pillars, and the completely out of alignment pillars for yourself. And it's important to have this distinction because the way that you're going to bring life back into balance is very specific. Kind of like what you said, when any one of these pillars is being neglected or they're being impacted or they're being, too much negative stress associated with it, that's what takes life out of its balance and we don't feel whole. So it could be that, like me, you're having a health issue and that's why I didn't feel whole. It could be your relationship's falling apart and that's why you don't feel whole. It could be work is too stressful and that's why you don't feel whole. It could be that you're in a mental health crisis and that's why you don't feel whole. It could be any number of things that are doing it, but we don't want to address the biggest issue in our life first. We actually want to address it last. And I'll tell you why. The most important thing to address first is what's being neglected. You always want to start there. So think about which pillars are not getting enough attention. Almost always, it's the personal wholeness pillar. That's the one that flies out the window the second we get stressed and overwhelmed. It's like, I don't have time to take care of myself. I don't have time to do anything fun. It could even be, I don't believe I even deserve to have fun while I've got this bigger issue that's going on in my life. But when that's missing and joy is missing from your life, it makes everything so much worse. It's like an entire pillar. It's like your whole balance wheel is completely off because that part is missing. And we talked about earlier before we started recording about, I always tell people the antidote to stress is joy. We can't get rid of all the stressful moments in our life if we have stress, 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 stress. How do we create balance? It's by giving yourself enough joyful, happy, self-care moments in our day to bring that back into alignment. So we need that joy. So I always tell people, if you are stressed and life is out of balance, the first thing you want to look at is what is being neglected. If it's your personal wholeness, then prioritize doing something fun every single day. Don't wait for the weekend. There should be something fun in your calendar scheduled every day because that's the quickest way for you to get a quick win. You will start immediately feeling better the moment you start focusing a little bit of attention on something that has been getting no attention at all. For some people, it's their spiritual wholeness is completely out of alignment, or it's they're not getting enough attention. That one's being neglected. It's like they don't know who they are. They feel very disconnected to who they are. They don't have a sense of self. They don't have like a strong personal practice or prayer practice or whatever it is. Not that it has to be prayer or any of these things, but no sense of self. They're not anchored in themselves. And when you're not anchored in yourself, like you feel a little bit disconnected, right? So for some, maybe that's the place to start for you because you get these quick wins when you put some energy into things that are neglected. And from that, from feeling just a little bit better, now we can move to the next category, which is to focus on the impacted pillars. So in the example I gave before, where it's like a financial situation that's happening, and now that's affecting my relationship and it's causing me stress, and my mental wholeness is being affected, the social wholeness is being affected, the emotional wholeness is being affected. Well, address those first, right? Start doing some things that are nice and fun with your partner, right? If you've got some tension brewing in your relationship, well, what are you going to do? You either have a choice. You're going to allow that to continue down that path that you're on where it's only going to get worse, or you can try to start bringing in some other fun things and some things that you can do together that can start to mitigate that just a little bit so it doesn't become completely out of alignment, because that's what you're trying to do. It's like we're trying to get this middle category to move back into the balanced area versus moving further away into the completely out of alignment category. So focus on that. So for some people, it's really focusing on the mental and emotional wholeness pieces. Those two are usually part of the bigger picture of ones that are impacted. Obviously, it's different for everybody, but that's going to be a good time for you to go, okay, so for my mental and emotional well-being, what is it that I can do for myself in that area? Are there some healing modalities that I can start to integrate into my life? Can I start bringing different practices in that are going to help me release some of the tension, some of the stress that's going on in my day and in my life? Can I start focusing more on my mindset? So that I can, feel better, reclaim kind of a sense of wholeness, because you can't fix a problem with the same mindset that created it. So if you can get your mindset kind of leveled up a little bit by focusing some attention in that area, now all of a sudden you're a bit of a different person than you were before. So now I can address the biggest issues of my life, the ones that are completely out of alignment. But now I'm coming at that from a place of feeling more whole. And now that allows me to see things in a different way, to get more inspired, to be more creative, and just to feel better on the journey towards bringing those pieces back online. And, those might be more of a long-term play to be able to bring online. The ones that are totally out of alignment, like if work is way too stressful, well, I mean, unless you're going to just up and quit your job tomorrow, like, it takes a while to like figure out, okay, well, what do I want to do? And I'm going to find a job and I need to search and I need to do all these things. Like that might take 6 months. It might take a year, to figure out that next step. So it's not like your quick win. So how can I help myself feel better, feel more me than I have felt in a long time, so that I can better handle that stress and everything that's being caused from that being out of alignment until I can bring that back online.
That sounds like such a good plan. And of course, I'm thinking about it through the productivity lens and what you're talking about. We talk about this in such a similar fashion. So the way that I'm seeing it is that, you have these three categories of imbalance, if you will. And so the order in which you approach it is going to help you with the next steps. It's going to make you stronger and more resilient and more energized and more encouraged. It's going to help you come from a stronger place. And it's also going to, like in the case of impacted, if you address those when you're addressing it in that order, you can save yourself from yet another pillar falling into complete misalignment. So it's like damage control in addition to building that energy and that positivity and that resilience in order to tackle the tougher stuff. That makes so much sense to me. That's such wise advice. We're not saying the process is simple, but the steps themselves have a simplicity to them in terms of prioritization. First, it's addressing where do I see imbalance happening and to what extent. Let's sort of organize and categorize. And then how do I prioritize? Well, you just gave us that. And it's a very simple way to do that. That makes so much sense. And it feels like it will give us the best chance of success. I'll say that.
Yeah, definitely. It's worked for me in my own life. And everything that I teach are things that I've lived and breathed. And that is why people resonate with it so much. It's because I show people this is what's worked. And then when they start to integrate and apply this into their lives, they're like, oh, yes, this makes sense. It's kind of this blueprint for how do you create balance when nobody else has taught you how to do it.
Yeah, exactly. And what to look for. And, we've talked quite a bit on the podcast. I mentioned this a lot with taking time to step back, to reflect, something that in our go, go, go kind of world, especially when we're feeling stressed and then we feel like the answer is to take action. I'm not saying that it's not. We do need to take action, but we need to take intentional action. And we need to do it when we are ready to take that action, which is why rest and play are so critical, which is why understanding where we're at and where we want to go first before we take a step is so important.
Yeah, awareness is everything. You can't change anything until you become aware of where you're at. I mean, that's the first step in anything that you want to do. And being intentional is, for me, that has probably been one of the biggest focuses of my life in the last couple of years is how can I be more intentional with how I design my day, how I structure my time, how I am when I'm with my kids. I'm really present, right? I'm being able to be really present. And for me, part of the balance, bringing life back into alignment, it's also really looking at how do you structure your day and your time? Because things get out of balance when we're not allotting the right amount of time to different things, and other wholeness pillars are sucking that time away from other parts. So how do we do that? It's really looking at that and going, okay, like what are your priorities now? If I want to bring personal wholeness back online and bring that back into alignment and add more fun and joy and self-care, and music and whatever into my life, well, when am I going to do that? I kind of go, okay, if I want to reprioritize something new and add more things into my schedule and my calendar into my day, then I need to be able to go, okay, well, where can I fit that in? If I want to fit in joy, like, well, maybe joy for me that day is I want to go on a bike ride. And I'm going to say, I'm going to take a 10-minute bike ride in the middle of my work day because I work from home and I have that flexibility to do that. Or maybe it's one night a week, I'm going to focus on this, or another night a week, I'm going to focus on doing something else so that instead of at the end of the day, you just plopping in front of the TV and just zoning out, which is okay to do sometimes, just don't do it every night. So I watch TV like a couple nights a week, but the other nights, like Monday nights, that's when I do my personal wholeness. That's my personal development night that I focus on courses that I bought or a book I want to read or something I want to do to level up in that way. Tuesday is TV and Wednesday nights is like self-care night. That's like when I'm going to go to my yoga class and take a hot bath, and I'm going to write in my journal and do some reflecting. And Thursday night, I focus on my social wholeness pillar. That's friends. So I'm either going to get together with a friend, or more times than not, I'm just going to call someone on the phone and catch up with somebody I haven't talked to in a long time. So I'm trying to just be more intentional with like how I'm structuring my day and my time so that I can actually start to fit in the things that are missing. Because people always say, I just don't have time. Well, that's great and good, Nicole. I need to focus on this and focus on that. But how do I fit it in? It's like, that's how you fit it in. You have to figure out like where your little windows of opportunity are throughout the day. And then you have to schedule it and you have to put it in your calendar. Because if it gets in your calendar, it'll get done. If it's not scheduled, it won't get done.
Yeah, you have to schedule it and protect it. And the things that you're describing too, so just a reminder, and again, coming from the productivity side, is that each of these things and the way that you can tend to each of these pillars and stuff can be done very simply, very quickly. It doesn't have to be a lot. You can have habits are very small steps, and they can still get the job done as long as they feel satisfying, as long as they still connect you to your joy, to your spiritual self, to whatever it is that you are looking to. When I say tend, I like that idea. It's like when you're tending your garden. So it's that kind of idea. And so what you described is little adjustments. Like, I didn't give up TV,
Right.
I just adjusted. And again, it's intentional choices. And I think when we do that, we know that we have a choice. Then we can also say, okay, there was an imbalance, but that was my choice because there was a Lord of the Rings marathon and I wasn't saying no.
That's right. Exactly.
I will adjust next week. I will get back on track. It's all good. So when we can say, okay, acknowledged, moving on, that can feel so much better. This is such a fantastic place for us to wrap up. I can't believe the time went so quickly, but this is exactly what we needed, is just these few steps. We can do this. I love it. And so if we would like to continue to stay connected with you, where can we find you?
Oh, thank you so much for asking. Well, you can find me on Instagram at Nicole Mixdorf. You can also find me on LinkedIn. You can look me up, Nicole Mixdorf, there. I probably share the most on LinkedIn, I would say. And then check out our website, which is balancebynature.com, and you can learn about all of our different programs that we have there.
We'll be sure to have those in the show notes. And now we are heading into a rapid wrap up. We're going to have a little fun. Speaking of joy, I always enjoy this part because there's a surprising amount of wisdom that comes in this little segment that seems so small, but has so much to offer. I would love to hear from you. 3 things that inspire your positively living in the way of a song, a saying, a mantra, and some kind of resource, any kind of resource. It could be a book or an app. So let's start with the song. What feels positive and joyous that you love to listen to?
Oh my goodness, there are so many songs that I just absolutely love, and I love to sing as well. We were talking about that before, that you like to sing too, so that's really beautiful. But a song that like really lights me up right now, I don't know, there's this song called World Hold On by Bob Sinclair, and that just comes on and it just like, ooh, it invigorates me and I just get excited and I start singing and it's wonderful. So I absolutely love that. And then a book that has brought me so much inspiration. It's from Gabby Bernstein and it is Super Attractor. Love, love, love that book. And then one more thing that brings me some inspiration.
Oh, like a saying or a mantra, something that you love to share or maybe you use to kind of keep yourself encouraged?
This one is a piece of advice that was given to me when I was 16 years old by a family friend. He said to me, if you keep doing the same thing that you've always done, you're only going to get what you've already got. And when I heard that, I thought, so wait a minute. Does that then mean that if there's something I want, then all I have to do is change something to get it? And he goes, yeah. And I thought, well, that's easy. I could do that. And so from this very young age, I really embraced the concept of change as always being a good thing. And that change would lead me somewhere better than I was before. And as I've gotten older and I've gone through lots of different challenges in my life and I've overcome those challenges, the person that I've become on the other side of it is the gift. And so I've just realized now that when a major challenge shows up in my life, I don't get bogged down by it. I actually go, oh, something exciting is waiting for me on the other side of this. And I can't wait to find out what it is.
What a beautiful reframe. Do you see what I mean? Such wisdom in this segment. Now, we're going to add one little bonus item. Last but definitely not least, I would love to share some gratitude with you. So what or who contributes to positively living for you, Nicole?
Oh my goodness. I mean, I have endless gratitude, but right now I have so much gratitude for my teachers, my energy healing teacher. She has just brought out just this beautiful healing gift within me. It's allowed me to tap into this universal wisdom that just keeps flowing through me. And it's changed my life in such beautiful, profound ways right now that I just like have such enormous gratitude for that gift that I've been given and for her to awaken that within me. And of course, my family, obviously, but that's just really one thing that's been on my heart a lot.
That's beautiful. And I'm certainly grateful for all she has done to help you not only do what it is that you do, but be able to join us here and share your wisdom, share your heart and your joy. I'm so grateful for you. Grateful that we're connected. We've been able to collaborate like we have. It's been so brilliant. So thank you, Nicole, so much for shining your light so brightly in this world and for sharing it with us today.
Oh, thank you so much for the opportunity to come be here. It is just always a pleasure, always a joy, and it's wonderful. So thank you.
Thank you for joining me today. Your time is precious and limited, and I'm honored you chose to spend it with me. If you have feedback, questions, or want to schedule a chat, head to positivelyproductive.com/connect. And if you are looking for any of the resources referenced on the podcast, from books to products to training and more, go to positivelyproductive.com/resources.